shifts. There's 4 waiting.
So I gotta think carefully. Internal mic, I don't really want to use that one, so I gotta turn that one. That's like my backup. Where's the camera? Where's the camera now?
Yeah, we gotta get a better picture there.
Dude, I don't have it.
It's still showing still me.
There we go. So that's going to be my primary audio, and I'm going to, where is this? It should be here.
Oh, it's not right. Okay. I think I remember that. Mike is not fielding any calls.
He has to on this one. What's the matter? This is the captioner. She needs to talk to you.
Yeah. That's one he'll field.
I tried your cell phone and you didn't answer.
She didn't.
Mary Ellen tried it.
Yes, Mary Ellen. Oh, that's great. I just want to be able to get out. I was thinking of looking for this one, because then I can go out.
Thanks, Mary Ellen.
You're welcome, because I can't get out that side. Somebody else might be able to. I'll look at this chair out so nobody says it. Well, I'm just going to sit on the end of it, because I can't get behind the desk. So I'll just sit on the end there.
Hey, this is Mike Jepson. Heidi, I'm doing the broadcast, and they said to call you back. Yeah. So on the ingestion. Okay. So can I just read the ID, the CID to the ingestion URL? Okay. So 7VXG-P. Okay. So it. Okay. That's what it should be. So can I send it to you, or should I just tell you here over the phone? Okay. Sorry for the. Let me. I've got to pull my email up real quick here. Okay. So just guys. I appreciate you calling back. I don't know what. Sometimes these ingestion codes have been weird, like just the moment before we're broadcasting. Apologize for the delay. I've got my email here somewhere. So I am ready for your email address. H. So HCTHOM, the number 2 at. Okay, let me just verify that one more time before I hit send. HCTHOM2 at Gmail. Okay, I just. I just sent it to you, so it should. Hey Matt, what slide is your video on so that I can, but on the one that you gave me, I have it. Do you remember what page so I can edit it, delete it, and then... Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, it's coming through. So, what's this one for? This is for questions.
Yes, actually, it is different, so I have my own.
Okay, so we got it open mic, so... Let's see. So go get that to Matt and have that.
So if there's a question, you want me to just raise my hand? Yeah, okay. Good. Ready to go? Okay. Okay. Hey, how are you? Good. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay. We're going to give people a few more minutes to trickle in. So, okay. Okay. All right. Are there other folks coming over from TASE, or are they? Okay, I'll hold on. Hi, Jolene. No, this is the Salmon River.
Oh.
That's
You
the.
went to the Salmon River?
I do the Salmon River every year.
But not even the San Juan.
I've done the San Juan too. I'm going to do it next week.
Nice.
So, yep.
Maybe I can. Maybe I can give you my aunt's number
go stay at the lodges that she rents out.
Maybe. I'm planning on sleeping on the ground for a week, so I need to sleep outside of a bed for a few nights a month. Otherwise, I go a little crazy. So I need to feel like snakes and things are crawling with me. It is. It's a beautiful section of river. Right now it's a little high, so July and August are the best. Yeah, right now it's really high. Yeah. The San Juan's really low. It's so dry. I don't even know if I can do it, actually. I'm waiting to see what happens before I...
Snowpack down there is at
0. Yep, it is. It's pretty dry. So the San Juan this time of year is normally running around 2,000 current feet per second. Today it's 440. It means I can walk across the river. That's what it might be. I might be actually hitching up and pulling my boat downstream.
I rode horses among the San Juan River when I had horses, and me and my dad would always go down there all the time on weekends.
It's beautiful. It's a great place. It's a little hot in the summer.
Yeah, try have your brother throwing you in one of the reservoirs down there.
Yeah, I might need that.
No, it's literally my brother. Good thing I had my iPod in the car, and he just started, I splashed water on him, and he grabs me.
This is just a quick test for the captioner if you want to test the captions.
But it's so hot, you dry out right like that. You're good. Okay, let's see if anyone else is coming, and we can get rolling. I didn't want to start without you, so I was just making sure. I don't think you're the only stragglers. I think I saw Jamie. Oh, Jamie and Gail are coming. So, all right. How are you? Good. Good. How are you, JC? Good. Thank you. I had to outdress you somehow, So it's always a competition with JC. This is where it's going. You know that, right? That's where it's going. It's going to be Vegas and Tampa Bay. That's where we're going. I thought I saw Gail and Jamie. There you are. Oh, good, you're here. We can start. No. What's that?
Am I up for prayer?
You're up for prayer, yeah. No, you're up for this, actually. I thought I'd put that up to let you know where things are going. Yeah. No, it's a good design. Okay, I think we're gonna get rolling. It's kind of loud in here. Okay, I think in the interest of time we'll get rolling. And let's see, yeah, we're only 3 minutes late, so that's good, but I couldn't start without Gail being here. So, yeah, you're welcome. And Jamie, yeah, because I do have to point out that on this opening slide that this is where the future is. It's going to be Vegas and Tampa Bay. That's how this is all going to play out, just so you know. That's where it's going. I have to admit, those of you who are doing the Stanley Cup pool, I'm quite impressed with your picks. You're beating me for sure. But I do have to explain that for ethical reasons, I can never, ever, ever pick Boston or Pittsburgh. So it doesn't matter how good they are. So, anyway, so thank you for coming. We will try to make this as quick and painless as possible. Although I hope this will be useful and informative. And I think based on some of the feedback I've gotten, this will be a little bit different and will hopefully spur some questions and discussion. So I'm kind of calling today's meeting our first state of the state of the CPD, our financial meeting. So one of the things that you will see towards the end of this presentation is that one of the pieces of feedback I got on the survey that I sent out a few months ago was people are not clear on how the CPD is doing financially. And so today I'm going to spend quite a bit of time talking about how the CPD is doing financially and explaining some of the fun financial aspects of the CPD. So if you see Richard run out of the room screaming, you know why. I'm planning on divulging some of the wizard behind the curtain. So, although that's not Richard, unfortunately, there are larger forces at work here. So anyway, we will be talking about that. I want to talk about this survey a bit, and then some exciting things that are coming up. So this is kind of where we're going. Wow, that's fancy. So I like an agenda. Here's your agenda. The first step on the agenda is welcome. Welcome. Thank you for making time to be here. Okay, we're done with that. I want to introduce some new staff, and if you're here, I'll have you stand up. Some staff recognitions. I want to give a space and moving update. We continue to be in the process of moving our programs. I'm going to give you our financial update, which will take a good portion of the meeting today. The survey results, some reminders and upcoming events, a final thought, and then we'll be done. After we are done, if you were paying attention, there is food and drinks, not adult beverages. We're on campus after all. But there are food and drinks across the way in the lobby of the CPD. I wanted to spend the last hour just sort of as a reception time to hang out, to visit, to just spend time together not doing work. Occasionally we have to do that. So that's something to look forward to, maybe, if you're a social person. If you're not a social person, it could be a little bit anxiety inducing. I'm sorry. So, staff and project updates. We've had quite a few changes since the last time we met was in early January. We've had quite a few changes since then. Some new people come on, some people leave. So what I'll do is quickly run through this. We found that there were so many changes. I know in the past, Sharon and Kelly have run around trying to get pictures of all the new people. It became quite clear that that was an impossible task. And so I've just included names. I'm sorry. You'll have to learn them as you meet them. So in terms of the services division, at least the people that we are aware of, and I don't know if any of these people are here, we have Rachel Malmgren, Megan Israelson, Jody Baxter, Claire Weaver. Is Claire? Claire's not here. Is that spelled correctly? No? Okay. There we go. We'll assume. I wondered as I looked at that. Jocelyn Matheson, Kenya Carrera, and then Tammy Barrett. So quite a bit of change there. A new speech pathologist, which was a nice thing. Did I miss somebody?
No, we're just saying.
Okay, yeah. Is Rachel here?
No, but we should always celebrate.
We should always celebrate, yeah. We should celebrate speech pathologists, so we'll have Jacqueline here. Right. Oh, okay.
As of Saturday, they hope not.
Perfect. Perfect. Well then, there we go. 2 speech pathologists, which is a nice addition to the program. So services continues to grow. There's some turnover. There's a couple new hires I know in the clinic upstairs that are not on here. So I guess they'll be included in the next meeting, maybe. In terms of the services division at DSL, and I don't think any of these people are probably down holding down the fort, aren't they? So a lot of new faces down at DSL working with Drake and Kaylin. So Nikita Rogers, Betty Flomo, Rebecca Mitchell, Denise Summers, Mackenzie Fultz, Trent McSpadden. Oh, wait, those aren't at DSL, are they? Yeah. Oh, Trent McSpadden, yeah, they are. Sheridan Zambrano and Holly Knapp. So if you get a chance to go down to DSL and introduce yourself, there's a lot of new faces. So did I forget anybody at DSL? Perfect. It's always good to have the summer crop of folks on, right? So, Okay. Let's see about research and training. Research and training has had a few hires, primarily in Mark Innocenti's programs. So we have Katie Gibbons, who's with the ECHO project, Krista Wilson, Allison Haley, Hattie Holt, Alejandro Huerta, and Carlissa Openshaw, who are all with the Family Place. Are any of these folks here?
Most of them have already left.
They all left? They all ran away?
As far as for the summer of
Okay. So they're all gone. Okay, well. Well, so so it should be noted with these folks here, with the ECHO and the some of the projects that are going on in the research and training division. This has been a really nice addition, and with Alexis and her help with holding things together, we are currently beating the University of Utah in our data collection. Always something to celebrate. So. Administration. Haha, just joking. UATP at Create in Salt Lake has hired Erin Bayless. The PSP Vista program has Anna Furpo, right? Okay. PR Media, we have brought on Bryson Carpenter as a student media intern, and he was supposed to be here today doing some documentation for us. He's unfortunately in the hospital. But Bryson is going to be working with Kelly and with Joe Lynn to gather some video and social media stuff. So if you, I'm going to just put the plug out there right now. If you have projects, if you have activities, if you have things that you would like video, photographs, things taken at, please work with Kelly to make sure that Bryson can get there. Bryson requires a little bit of extra planning to make sure that things are accessible, but the plan is to get him to as many of these as possible so that we can have actual day-to-day. We get the special events. When you travel places, we get the special pictures. We don't get the day-to-day loveliness that goes on here, and Bryson's going to help capture some of that. Of course, the sitting at your desk isn't exciting, but we're going to try to make it as exciting as possible. The Biogenetics Laboratory with Thane Sweeten has Kelsey Girardelli, Spencer Smith, and Maren Beckstead, who are all student researchers from Brigham City, who are sort of helping tie some things up there. And then special recognitions. Should I tell the real story of this one? Yeah. So Sue and I showed up at the research gala, which was fun, which was an annual event for the past 7 years. It was the last one this year, primarily because I think it costs far too much money for the university to put it on. I'm probably being more honest than I should be, but it's quite the event. And it turns out that unbeknownst to either Sue or I, the services division was recognized for the Speakers Bureau project and won an award there for the Speakers Bureau project in the training of self-advocates. So it was fortuitous that Sue was there, as it was her name that was listed on the program. And we're sitting at the table next to each other. I'm like, did you know this was happening? No, I didn't know. Did you know this was happening? So I just, yeah. It turns out that the research awards are not nominated or anything. They seem to just be picked by somebody in the research office, and they don't tell you. So anyway, it was nice to be recognized in front of the whole university. Yeah, it was fun. Sharon Weston, for many of you who are here, Sharon up front here, received the Outstanding Staff of the Year award at the college award ceremony. So it's good. We all know we would fall apart without Sharon, so it's good to award her occasionally. And then I was elected to be on the Utah Parent Center board, and I'm not sure that's a special recognition or a punishment, but it is a new thing that's on my plate now. So that's a fun thing. So the move, should we talk about this? Let's talk about the move and sort of give you an update of where things are at. So in March, our clinical services, including the biomedical clinic, and then the clinical services piece of that, it's all together now. It's the developmental behavioral health clinic, all moved over here in addition to the up to 3, sort of the what? The ABC classroom, sorry, yes. ABC classroom moved over here. And have slowly been settling in. They were the first ones in the building. They got to lay claim to the good spaces, the top shelves, the refrigerators, things like that. And have sort of been making this home. It is currently, right this week, the rest of the occupants of the building are in the process of moving in. So the psychology department, marriage, family therapy, others are moving in this week. So this building is very quickly going to start having close to full occupancy and be feeling a lot busier. By the clinical and biomed clinic moving over to the CPD or over to the Sorensen Center here, that's vacated the 3rd floor, a good portion of it, and UPDN has moved in. So I believe most of the on-site here in Logan staff are in. Anybody left over at TACE, or are they all here? All? Yeah.
We have 8 people off-site.
Okay. Right, but all the Logan people are here on site now. Okay, perfect. Other TASTE programs are moving in at the end of May, so the rest of the admin people who are on the top floor, which is Jeff Sheen, Sachin, Marilyn, LaDawn, a whole host, Charlie, a whole host will be moving down to the 1st floor once Care About Childcare moves out that week of the 21st, and then the rest of TASTE will be moving in. And the plan is to have all of TASTE here. I hear that, John, you're the last man holding down the fort. June 22nd. It should be noted that June 22nd is the official last day of the lease. He will occupy it up to that moment. So by June 22nd, though, all of TASTE will be over in the new CPD building. This is a little bit of a shift, as TASTE has been down at the Innovation Campus since 1987. I don't want to know where you were in 87 or what you were doing, because it makes me feel old. But it's it is a big shift, and we're glad to have you as part of our family.
Well, and we were the first program in the Innovation Campus.
Your lines have been unmuted.
My line's been unmuted. Is that okay? Oh, that's okay. All right. I just want to make sure. So yeah, so TASTE was the first ones there, and as a result of shifts in the Innovation Campus and the way that leases are run and everything else, they'll be moving on campus here with us. So it will be a shift and a change, but it's going to be, I think we're all going to survive. It's important, if you've seen new people, if you're in the CPD building now and you see new people coming in and out and running down to the basement, they are not running some shady clandestine business out of there. They are actually from ComD, and they will be occupying our basement at least for a few months here until their renovation of the space in the Lily White building is done. Am I correct in that? Is it the Lily White building they all came from? Or? Okay, so they're getting a new space and they're going to live with us for a while. They'll be moving out, though, later this year, which will free up some space in the basement. So just putting that out there. That brings us to the next slide. Space, growth, and next steps. Many of you have heard me say this, and I will continue to say it over and over and over. In a marriage, there are certain things that people fight over frequently, and at the top of that list is finances. At a university, there are certain things that people fight over. Finances is not at the top of that list. Space is more important than finances. Space can be a contentious issue. It's important that I think we recognize how tense space can be and sort of establish sort of the criteria for requesting space. We will have additional space later this year as ComD moves out. But there is a process for requesting it, and we do want to facilitate growth, but we also have limitations in how we do that. Charlie, in the back there, is sort of formally recognized as the CPD facilities representative, and she oversees space utilization for the building. If you've been here for a while, that's not really a change in Charlie's role. And over the past few years, it has been a big part of her role as we've moved and shuffled and reconfigured things. So if you have requests for space, they need to run through Charlie in the CPD building. If there are requests for additional space in this building, those need to run through Sue Olson, because ostensibly we are divided between the Sorensen Center here and the CPD building next door. So that's what I am requesting. If your project needs new space in the CPD, go to Charlie. If it needs new space in this building or an accommodation of space in this building, work with Sue. That makes sense? Sachin, you had a hand up.
Is that the same with the 8 lab space? Does that run through Charlie or is it?
That's a good question. Yeah, let's have a conversation about that. Really, the AT lab, because we don't go over there often, technically it only exists when we visit. So sort of out of sight, out of mind. No, I'm teasing, Clay. We will look at that AT lab space. I know that we have some control over the parking spaces over there, and we've been dealing with that. But we will ask about that, whether because. Okay. Okay. Let's. Charlie and I will get together on that and figure that out. We'll work with you on that. Sort of as a note here, because there have been so many changes over the last 6 months. Well, at the end of June, it will be 6 months. I am sort of requesting that there be no additional space changes, shuffling after June 2018 for at least a year till next summer, so we can kind of all settle in, figure out how our space is going to work, and just work with that. It's been pretty disruptive to a lot of people's workflow. It's been pretty disruptive to just general operations. And so we're kind of requesting that if you can, just sit tight for a year, figure out how to work in the space that you've got, and then after a year, once we know what's working, what's not working, we can make more educated decisions about where we need to put people and where we need to grow. If you are going to be hiring new staff, however, in that year, please work with Charlie to request that space, and we'll see what we can do to accommodate that. So, does that make sense? Okay. So, I'm trying, you're going to notice a theme here that comes back over and over and over, and this is a theme that came through the survey. There's been a lot of change. Let's stop for a little bit and take a breath. So that's kind of a theme here. There's a lot of change. Let's get this over with, and then let's just sort of sit tight and figure out how things are going to work. And that's something that I think the next year we need to take a little bit of time and just breathe and work in with what we've got. Okay, so new awards, contracts, and programs. I think it's important to recognize new projects that come in. And to recognize the people who do that. TACE has been very busy in their quest for global domination. Oh no, it's just national domination, I'm sorry. And has brought in several new projects with new states. If you have been down at TACE, you know they have a map up on the back wall that they put stars on to sort of map their conquests. Can I call them conquests? Is that okay? I hope that map's moving over, by the way. Good. So TACE had a new 3-year contract with New Hampshire Department of Education for the Task 12, which is a sign language interpreter program. They are currently in the process of hiring a new project director for Task 12. I believe those interviews are occurring or occurred last week, if I'm not mistaken. Finals, okay, 2 weeks from now. So Byrne Jones, who ran that project for quite a few years, has retired, and we're trying to find a suitable replacement. TACE was contracted with the Casablanca Community School to train on inclusive practices and least restrictive environments. Then the Oregon Department of Education to sort of help run their interagency coordinating council. And then a contract with the Kentucky Department of Education working with state education agency staff. If you know TACE, this is what they do. This is sort of their bread and butter. These are important contacts and important connections we make that actually build and lead to future opportunities. A few other, TACE was awarded a contract from South Dakota Department of Education. I know that Norm has spent quite a bit of time. Where'd Norm go? There you are. Oh, you're in the back. Norm spent quite a bit of time in South Dakota. In fact, I think we've talked over the phone while we've been on the road in South Dakota. And I think that relationship is paid off with some of these contracts, which is great. Then sort of related to that is the Wounded Knee School District, another contract there, a one-day training. WebAIM has 23 new service agreements, and then I think I mentioned this in our last meeting. WebAIM was, I think, the only project here at the CPD that's actually negotiated a tech transfer agreement, which is really helping them take their WAVE tool to market and to look at an enterprise version of that tool that can be used by companies and larger organizations. So that's a tremendous coup. And then, despite some of the stress that has occurred over the last year, ECATP has received continued funding for 1 year. So that's an ongoing fun thing. Maybe not fun, Barb, sorry. Other divisions. Administration, so these are sort of some updates and some program changes. Sachin Pavithran, who is the UATP project director, has been appointed to be the policy director for the CPD. Sachin has been requested by President Cockett to sit on the USU Policy Committee, and in addition to that sits on several state and national appointed boards, and has been really instrumental in a lot of the policy work that happens here at the CPD, and we've shifted some resources to allow him to engage more in this policy work, which is going to be helping our programs in the long term. So that's going to be a little bit of a shift in Sachin's role, but all policy initiatives and legislative requests will run through Sachin with the help of the policy committee. So you'll be seeing a lot more about that coming up over the summer as we prepare for the next legislative session. It just ended. It will start again very quickly. UATP also got a community development block grant, which I believe Alma was instrumental in working on over here. And to help with developing some of the more AT devices for demonstration and loan. And then CREATE, over the past few months we've worked with CREATE and UATP to track their donations. And I know I've worked with some people in services too around donations. When we receive donations to our programs, they actually count as donations, in-kind contributions. And we knew that CREATE and UATP were bringing in a large volume of donations. We hadn't really been tracking those. Over the past 3 months, we've been able to sort of identify that CREATE and UATP bring in about $10,000 to $12,000 per month in AT donations, which, you know, over the course of a year translates into a pretty significant chunk of money. Those donations create connections with the community. And as we interface with those donors, it creates opportunities to build our programs and to create additional collaborations and opportunities. So I appreciate Clay and Tom and Cameron and everybody for helping track that. It's a little additional paperwork, but as we sort of started drilling down into it, it's a pretty significant, it's a significant piece of what UATP does. So thank you, Clay. Yeah, no, this is not everything. Yeah, these are, that's true. So the funny thing we've learned, this actually came up on Monday this week. I don't know what, can we call CREATE in Salt Lake like the orphanage for abandoned AT devices? Yeah. We learned on Monday this week that people will just come to CREATE and dump truckloads of stuff there and leave them and run away late at night. And there's no way to connect that to a donor or anything. It's a little harder to track those things. And of course, Clay and Tom and Cameron are really good about trying to use them to the best extent possible, but it does create a little additional work. So
Black market donation.
That's what it is. It's really a black market. It's kind of a, you know, the island of abandoned toys or unwanted toys from Rudolph, right? It's kind of like that. It's the Misfit toys. Yeah, the island of misfit toys. Well, Tom in Salt Lake sort of has the garage of misfit assistive technology. And that's right. Okay. Research and training. A few changes here. Tim Reeson, who many of you know has been in the special education department, does employment training around the state, has sort of a national presence in customized and supported employment. We'll be joining the Research and Training Division at 50% time starting in July to help build our capacity there to deliver training and supports around supported employment. This is going to be a big theme over the next few years, is really building on Tim, Jeff's, and just the Aggie's elevated peer program expertise to make this transition and employment program work. And then I announced in January that Jen Morgan joined as new staff. She is in Salt Lake, is unable to join us today. Jen Morgan, we stole from the University of Utah. Most of the time the University of Utah steals from us, we stole from them, which has been nice. Jen's background, as I mentioned, I think is in aging and disability, and she brought a contract with her with the National Commission on Aging, where she provides training and technical assistance around connecting veterans with benefits and aging supports. And then Judith, Jen, and Alma have worked the last few months on the Living Well training project, which some of you attended that training last week. We sort of tried to promote that far and wide. Because of your help in promoting that, we are currently beating IHC. Because IHC is sort of our competitor in offering this training. Anytime that we can beat IHC, this is good. So I just need to thank Judith, Jen, and Alma for sort of taking that project on. It's been a lot of work over a short period of time. So let's see. And then services. So Michael and Brenna up front here, they tend to hide away and be pretty quiet. Michael has been in a sort of a program, while TACE is trying to take national domination, Michael's trying to take state domination, has been adding quite a few large child care centers and has grown the child nutrition program substantially over the past year. And really, you've only been here, what, a year and a half or so? So it's pretty significant. So as we look at it, a rough projection is that he's increased revenue to the program by about $20,000 a year single-handedly, which is a lot of work. And Brenna has been really important to supporting Michael in that work and some of the data tracking and other stuff. So we want to thank you for that. DSL received a contract with Idaho Medicaid. We're hoping it's a foot in the door to broader things with Medicaid in Idaho. But it's entailed a few changes to the facility down there. Who would have known that Idaho was more stringent in their accessibility standards than Utah? But they are. So as a result of Idaho coming and doing an accessibility survey where they had to make some structural changes to DSL, which I think made it overall more accessible. But we like to think that Idaho's not necessarily ahead of us, and especially I've been in Idaho the last 11 years, or I was. I never thought Idaho would beat us in accessibility, but evidently they do. But that's in place, which allows us to serve a lot of clients from Southeast. And then Anna Brady, this is your big announcement. Sorry. So Anna Brady, who's been sort of crossing the line between services, and she's been doing some work with admin, we need to note that Anna has a new job. She's leaving us. So Anna's been around, sort of a quiet, unspoken force of nature, really doing a lot of data collection, a lot of work for Sue. She's kind of a go-to utility player, and we're losing her to South Carolina. So how we did that, I don't know, but it is warmer there. I keep thinking Judith might have had something to do with it, but I don't know. Anyway, so Anna, who just graduated, right? You just walked in the graduation. So has a faculty position. If you know how difficult that is these days, it is really, really hard. So Anna will be leaving us for a faculty position at Erskine College. So congratulations, Anna. Okay. Now, I snuck this in there because I knew if I didn't sneak it in there that everyone would tune out. I had it at the end, and then I was like, well, maybe it's important to just sneak it in the middle so that everyone's still awake. HIPAA, FERPA, and box. Let's call it that. There have been some concerns over the last couple of months about sharing personal information over email. We communicated and did a training for program coordinators a couple months ago with project directors on how to use Box to share files and information. The last few months we've seen a few files shared over email that have raised some red flags. So what you need to do is make sure that you're not sending personal protected information over email. Email, despite you thinking that you're the only one who sees it, is actually not secure at all. It's open accessible to whoever wants to look at it. I think, yeah, we just have to look at our political system and sort of some of the controversies over the last year and a half to see that email is not at all secure, nor is it a guarantee that things are going to be kept private. So it's important that if we need to send information that qualifies as protected information, so this is names, service information. If you have questions about what qualifies under HIPAA or FERPA, you need to talk to Sue or Janelle, right? And please try not to send that information over email. If you need to send it, you need to upload it to a folder on Box and then share the link to the file in an email. Box is secure. Box meets all FERPA and HIPAA security requirements. We just need to do this to protect us. If you've gone through the HIPAA trainings, you know that if we were ever fined for a breach of security, it's a pretty significant fine. And so we need to do our best, and it's everybody's responsibility to make sure that you're not sharing personal information over email. So again, if you have questions or concerns about this, please make sure you touch base with Janelle or Sue. Maybe I should just say Janelle, right? Sure. Janelle's our privacy officer at the CPD, and she sort of knows the ins and outs of this. If you have questions about using Box to share files, that would be a Michael question. Michael would be happy to come to division trainings. I'm sorry, I'm volunteering you. To
we want to be secure, and the one thing I want to say about Box is you've got to set the right settings. If you open it up to the world in Box, it's going to be open to the world. So you have to know how to do it right. So if you have questions, please let me know. Yeah. So it's sort of better to be safe than sorry. So if you feel like maybe what you're sending is personal protected information, please, I would prefer that you err on the side of being conservative. So I won't spend a whole lot of time on this. I could do a training. The USU offers HIPAA trainings. USU offers FERPA trainings. They're not required for everybody, but I would highly encourage you to go and just enroll and do them. Anything I'm forgetting here, Sue, that I should mention? Okay. So
Gail and the MAs, front of the office, they also have access to Virtue, which is
a secure email.
But it's a secure email system.
Yeah.
I have my license with Virtue and our CPD.
Okay. Okay. So I don't know if you heard that. So there is a secure email server that's primarily for programs in this building. It's called Virtue, or yeah. Kind of like Virtue, but with an R in it, Virtue or whatever. If you need to send things securely over email, again, people in this building or Janelle have access to that. Again, it's frequently easier just to put it on Box and share the link. So just an FYI. All right. Okay, well, we're done. All right. We're just getting to the good stuff. So let's walk through a financial update and give you a quick picture into where the CPD is today. I want to talk about the support we get from the university and sort of how this support from the university works. People have heard about it. They don't really know what it is. I want to talk about expectations for people who are paid on ENG, which we'll talk about what that means in a minute. Salary updates. I put those at the end because people want to know sort of what happened with salaries this year. I will tell you. And then building payment. This building we are in, we are using it right now because we are paying for it, at least a portion of it. And I figure if we're paying for it, we should be able to use it. Plus the sound's way better in here than it is in the other room. What's that? The light's better, the chairs are better. It's not hard to beat 307, is it? So I want to give you an update on sort of where we are in paying off the building, because I think it's important that everybody understand that this is a piece of what's going on at the CPD. So when I talk about transparency, here it goes. So where are we today? So if we look at, yeah, Leonardo. I actually had to alt tag that picture of Leonardo DiCaprio to make it accessible, and you should, that was difficult to explain. So if we look at last year, when we look at what we brought in as a center, we brought in $16,826,454, broken down, as you can see there. This year, we are on par to be there and maybe surpass that a little bit. We haven't completely reconciled May or June accounts, so it's very possible that we will go over what we brought in last year. My goal for this year was to really sort of break even, given all the changes and the expenses around moving and people coming and going. I felt like it would be great for us to sort of just maintain status quo from last year, and that's what we did. And so I need to thank each of you for doing that, so thank you. I'll give you a hand. I know that's been hard work. Now, I want to point out a few things in this, because this has entailed some creativity. You will notice that our federal amount in FY 2017 was $5 million, and our federal amount in 2018 was $1.7 million. Part of this is that there were some large federal grants that ended last year. Part of this is that there have not been a whole lot of federal opportunities open this last year to compete for. And so it has hurt our bottom line. As a result, people have had to get creative and have had to hustle in other areas. So you will notice that our state contracts have gone up significantly. A lot of these, the bulk of these, reside within TACE and WebAid. Thank you to you for doing that. It's a $1 million increase really over last year in bringing in state funding. There's a few others though, like the Living Well training, a few other Department of Health contracts, some Developmental Disabilities Council contracts that we hold with the state of Utah that have contributed to this bottom line as well. We have our other category, which is about $3.5 million, which is a little bit down, and part of this is we haven't quite reconciled the non-grant. If we combine the non-grant and the other, and part of this is we ran these numbers pretty quickly, you'll see that that other will move up to about $6.5 million. We've really grown in local funding, fee-for-service, small little invoicing people for services, training, things that don't count as contracts or grants. So these are donations, other stuff that's come in. So we have almost doubled our other category through non-grant sources, which I have to say is absolutely outstanding. I know that there has been quite a bit of pain over the last year in terms of moving and restructuring and stuff. A lot of this can be attributed to just some new procedures, operations with how we're processing income, insurance claims, things like that. So I should point out, I'm going to point out Gail. I know it's been a hard year for you, but I think that a lot of this change is due to your hard work and dedication, and then Janelle's support with that work. We've had a few others upstairs, Connie, Patty, who've really helped backfill that, but the services unit has done a tremendous job in sort of bolstering that bottom line and ensuring that we stay competitive. So thank you, Gail. I'll give you, and Janelle, and Patty. Patty's not here. So thank you. This is a big shift. There is good news, and I will get to that in a bit. So last year we had 72 different projects. This year, if we go through line item by line item, we had 91 different projects running through the CPD. 20 more than last year, well, 19 more than last year. That's a big change. It's a lot of little things going on, but those little things add up to make a big difference in the overall scheme of things. So, so thank you. So that's a, if you want to get into the nitty-gritty details, we will bore you, but I'm not going to do that. So, am I fair in all of what I've said, Richard? So far. Okay, you'll be sure to throw things at me if I'm not. Okay. E&G. Let's talk about E&G. People have heard of this mythical income stream we get from the college called E&G. In fact, I don't even know what E&G stands for, but I use it on a daily basis. What does E&G stand for, Richard?
That's what the state legislature calls our education and general funding.
Okay, so education and general funding. So this is funding that comes to the university and then gets passed on to us. On average, the CPD gets about $1.3 million from the college per year to support our administrative opportunities. We do have two other E&G lines that come to us. One is for Sachin's project, the UATP, which supports the Uinta Basin AT Lab. So that's not included in this $1.3 million. That's very specific. And then another line of funding comes through for the IOTI grants. That's not counted in this either because we can't really use that. That's dedicated for grants and training around the state. But what we can use for our operations is about $1.3 million every year, and that supports basic administration and operations. Historically, you'll see it's been a mystery how this money was allocated and where it was used and what happened with it. I think it's important that everybody understand what it is, why we get it. This money is a legacy from Marv. When Marv started the center, this money was meant to match a lot of the federal grants and contracts that require matches. And so by receiving this money, it allows us to compete more easily for federal and state contracts that require a match. How it's been divided, though, has sort of been a mystery. It's changed. It's sort of been a shell game, for lack of a better term. We tried this year, the division directors came together, we had a budget retreat, we spent a day trying to figure out a more equitable way to do this, and we sort of tried to remedy the situation. So in FY19, the divisions were allocated E&G as follows. So Technical Assistance Division got 18% of that $1.3 million, Research and Training got 21%, Services got 20%, Administration got 16%, and then Business Services is at 25%. Every year, our plan is to sort of look at where the needs are, what are the opportunities, and to revisit this methodology. Although this is infinitely more equitable, I think, than it was in the past. I know that really, just 2 or 3 years ago, TACE received 0 E&G dollars. So this sort of equalizes the divisions, provides a few more resources for divisions to do what they need to do to shore people up. So I'm trying to think, what else should I explain here? Why don't I explain, so Technical Assistance, Research and Training, those are the 3 divisions. Administration is my division, and I use that to shore people up across different projects. So currently this year I'm paying people for my administration E&G across every division, except for actually technical assistance. I'm not paying for anybody in technical assistance, but I'm sort of shoring people's salary up, having them do special projects, things like that with my portion of the E&G. Business services is always at 25 to 27%. That business services amount is what pays for the business office. So Connie, Joy, Jody, Richard, Michael, sort of our basic business functions are covered on this E&G because the people who are doing those business services don't bring in grants or contracts, but we need them. They are important to us. Even though you don't always feel important to you, we love you and we support you. So, let's see. So, that's kind of how it's been distributed. And there are some usage guidelines that we've talked about around these E&G funds. And as we had our budget retreat, we talked through these items. The primary function for E&G funds is to provide administrative support and matching, as I mentioned, for grants and contracts. They are primarily used to cover personnel salary. And just to sort of pull the curtain back a bit from the genie, E&G funds are a little bit funny. When you pay somebody off a grant or a contract, you have to pay for that person's time plus their benefits, if they're in a benefited position. E&G, we pay for their time, but the university pays for their benefits. So really, for every $1 of E&G money that we have, we get $1.50, because benefits are about 46%. So that 46% is covered by the university. That does not come out of our budget. So paying personnel on E&G actually gives us a better return on investment than other things where it's a dollar for dollar sort of a match. So that's why the expectation is that as the E&G funds go out, that they're used primarily to cover personnel salaries. Now we understand that there are limited discretionary funds, and occasionally they need to be used for other things, but ideally those are used to cover people. Of course, it doesn't go very far with as big an operation as we have. One of the questions came up as we discussed it: how do we bridge people who are between projects and who are losing funding? And the expectation that we came up with, just so that everybody's aware, is that projects, divisions would use overhead and discretionary funds to bridge personnel between projects before they used E&G. E&G is a little harder to shift people off of, and there's some strings attached to it. So the idea is that overhead and discretionary funds would be used for bridging personnel, but then if we needed, we could move them onto it. The other thing that we discussed that is a little bit of a shift, which will be a bit of a transition, is that master's, PhD, project director personnel cannot be covered over 50% on E&G. E&G funds are not competitive. E&G funds, they come to us every year. They're not necessarily a guarantee of position. And so the expectation is that if you're a project director person at the center, that you're bringing in money to support your position. And so this has not been explicitly stated in the past, but it's something that we are moving towards. So the expectation is that if you have this level of education and that you are running a project, that you sort of support at least half of your salary. Okay. Now, if you're other people, so 75% of project staff, graduate assistant, student assistant support can be paid from E&G, and then 100% of administrative personnel, because they don't compete, are covered on E&G. So these are probably raising more questions than you would like, but I think it's important to share sort of what, what the expectations are and put that out there. We understand that this is a little bit of a change in how things have been done in the past and will require some transition, and supervisors will work with people in terms of transitioning and making the appropriate shifts over the next year. Expectations. So there has been... Back up? Can back up. Yep.
So underneath the bullet at 50%, you also have a 75%.
Yep. Oh, wait, that's not where I'm going. You don't get to see salary updates yet. You got to wait for that.
So the difference between your project staff, and you just touch on that?
So project staff would be not really project director level people. So
the next level of worker bees.
Yeah, the next level of worker bees, really. Yeah. And again, this is negotiable, depending on, because I understand the services unit has, the services unit is structured a little bit differently and requires a little bit of flexibility around that, because you have masters and PhD level who are doing project staff, worker bee stuff, because you have special licensures and certifications and you have advanced degrees in that. So yeah. So again, but this is, yeah, this is something that is going to be worked on over time over the next year, but this is what we're moving towards. So, yeah. And again, I'm putting this in people's brains so you can think about it. But I think it's important. So the reason I bring it up is that there are many people at the center who are sort of covered on E&G for little bits and pieces of time. So as projects come and go, E&G is used to ensure that we keep good people on staff. And that is a valuable purpose of E&G funding. We don't want to lose people who have made and have the ability to make great contributions to our projects. But there have not been a whole lot of expectations. It's just been assumed, oh, well, I don't have 10 or 20% of my salary. Somebody will cover that so that I can work full time. So what we've done is sort of drafted a set of expectations. If you are paid off of E&G, what is the expectation with that? If you're paid off a project or a grant or you deliver a service, there's very specific expectations about what you do on a daily basis. If you're in the business office, there's a set of expectations about what you do on a daily basis. But for people who are paid 10%, 20%, little dribs and drabs on E&G, there's really not been a set of expectations. So we drafted these, had the budget retreat, and I'd just like to, and again, I'm open to feedback as we go through this, but the idea was, when you're paid on E&G, what do we want you to do? And a lot of it's around participating in the broader culture of the CPD. So when we look at this, and this is a good thing to ask your supervisor when the change of the fiscal year comes, how much of my salary is covered on E&G, right? So that you know if these apply to you and to negotiate which of these apply to you in your position. But the expectation is that you will participate in grant and contract writing teams and proposal development. So bringing in things, so this, I understand that not everybody can take the lead in doing this, but people support grant and contract writing teams by brainstorming, by helping budgets, by negotiating agreements, by identifying collaborators. There's lots of ways to do this. Participating in core grant, goal, and content area teams. So we have 6 goals under our core grant: employment, transition, healthcare, mental health, oh great, accessibility, oh, where did it go? I knew I was going to put myself on the spot. No, we said transition, employment transition, healthcare, mental health, accessibility, personnel development. Sorry, Norm, personnel development. Yeah, and so the expectation is if you're paid off E&G, you're going to participate in these teams as requested. Another thing, if you're paid off E&G, there's an expectation to support, advise, mentor, and supervise USU students as assigned by your supervisor. Actively support the expansion of service clinics and participate in clinical diagnostic service coordination meetings, things like that. There are, in the service unit specifically, a lot of times people have to generate their own salary, and there's not, any time that you take off from doing that is, time is money essentially, right? That's 1 less, 2 less patients, clients that you can see. Sue uses E&G to buy out portions of people's time to participate in meetings and coordination and things like that. So that's an expectation if you have E&G going towards your salary. Participate in staff training, professional development, and other CPD strategic initiatives. So there's things coming, the accessibility training that WebAIM's been doing. If people have been paid off E&G, or if you are, the expectation is that you would participate in that and really, and potentially help deliver some of it if that's part of your position. Actively promote the CPD, develop relationships with external partners or donors, actively seek new funding opportunities by researching funding, actively promote entrepreneurial innovative ideas and activities that could be leveraged into future projects. I'll talk more about this in a little bit. And then perform other revenue generating activities as requested by their supervisors. So there's been this notion that fundraisers, sort of things like that after hours are not part of a person's job. But if you're paid off E&G, I think it's important to support the division in the activities they do to raise funds. A good example is the Run, Walk, and Roll, which is coming up on June 23rd. If your supervisor requests that you be there to help and participate in that, even though it's on a Saturday, it's kind of an expectation. So, am I fair in that? What's that? I said it's a fun expectation. It's a fun expectation. I brought my whole family last year. We had a great time. There's a lot of prizes. You can win prizes. They actually have more prizes. What's that? You can get your workout in.
Well, you're wearing a superhero
Yeah, that's true. And if you come this year, you might see me in spandex. Oh wait, no, that's not gonna no one's gonna come then. So. Yeah. So again, these are things that as things change with the new fiscal year in July, supervisors will be sitting down and visiting with you. If you have a portion of your salary covered on E&G and outlining, helping be more specific in what the expectations are for your time that is paid with that funding. So I'm sure there are lots of questions. I'm going to move forward, and if you can save them till the end, I will answer them at the end. But just to sort of say, it's a little bit of a cultural shift. People have kind of not, there hasn't been a whole lot of expectations around. I don't know that these expectations are outside of the norm. This is actually the reason that I am here in Utah, is I was at a center where they didn't have university dollars coming in. A project I was working on ended. I wrote and wrote and wrote grants. The grants didn't come through, and I had to leave. And that's how I ended up in Idaho, and then I ended up here. So that's actually how I left Alaska, is that there just wasn't funding at the center. We're lucky that we have this funding to come in and help support people and keep good people on, but there needs to be the expectation that it's being used to help sort of hopefully shore up people's salary and expectations here. So let's talk about salary. So you know what happens. Some of you have been involved in this, some of you have not, but I think it's good that everybody know. This year there is a 1.5% increase, cost of living increase that was approved by the legislature. In addition, there is a $120 health care adjustment or increase for all benefited employees. The 1.5 COLA salary increase applies to people who started prior to April 1st. The $120 applies to everybody across the board. And why they do $120, and last year it was $175, I have no idea. It's kind of a weird thing. But it's supposedly to cover the cost of increased health care. It doesn't come near to really covering it doesn't cover the rate of inflation for health care, but it's at least something that hopefully helps to offset some of that. We also had the ability to add 1% for merit across the entire unit. So with the 1.5% plus 120, we could add merit up to 2.5%. As long as the overall, if we took everybody's salary and averaged out the increase, it could not exceed 2.5% for the entire CPD. So that means that we had approximately $15,000 this year across the entire CPD to allocate for merit across the unit. So in the past, this has been done using a percentage. So somebody received a 1% increase or a 2% increase. Now, if you are better at math than I am, you know that a percentage for a person who is making $80,000, 1% for a person making $80,000 is a lot more than 1% for a person who's making $30,000. I need to turn off, my phone keeps beeping at me. Sorry. And so what we did this year as we sat down and discussed it was try to figure out a more equitable way to distribute merit across the unit, because if somebody worked hard and deserves merit, you shouldn't receive less because you're paid less. And so we came up with a tiered system this year that was agreed upon by all division directors. There was a $500 tier level and a $1,000 level that was awarded based upon performance evaluation and funding availability. $15,000 doesn't go too far. We went a little bit over that, which will have to be made up somewhere else. That's for me to worry about. So we awarded more merit than technically we'd been allocated because we had a little bit of room to move. But that's kind of how things happened this year. Not everybody received merit because just going across the entire unit ends up in a couple $100s each, and it doesn't really provide an incentive or a reward. So if you have questions, about whether you received merit or not. You will know that, actually, in a little bit. Final salaries have been submitted to the Dean's office. They've been approved through the Dean's office. They are currently at the University Budget Office, and we're awaiting their approval. As soon as they are approved through the University Budget Office, we will be printing out salary sheets. In the past, I think several years ago, am I correct? Salary sheets were printed out so people got, this is what your new salary is. We are going to be doing that again so that people get a formal written sort of document of what your new salary is. We will be having you sign those and return those to us, and then we'll provide you with a copy of it for your records. So that's kind of how salaries happen this year. You can probably, if you know your base salary, you can calculate what you got. If you have questions about merit, that would be something to talk to your division director or project supervisor about. Hopefully they mentioned to you that they were awarding it. If not, I would say shoot them an email and ask. So in addition to this, sort of related to it, because the performance evaluation process this last year is important in determining merit, we felt like it was important to have sort of a touchstone, a benchmark during the year to see how people are doing on their goals. Because the performance evaluations are become more and more central to how we're determining making salary decisions in the future. So I have asked supervisors to have a 6-month visit with the people they supervise to check in on progress towards goals and things like that, just to make sure that things are working. A performance evaluation every year where you write a goal in January or February and then never look at it again until the next January or February is not useful. And if we are going to be measuring progress based upon goals and your performance, I think it's important that you receive feedback through the year that you get that. So sort of related to this, because we use them this year to determine merit, we're going to be a little more proactive in making sure that we're touching base with you on performance. So I think the next one maybe, should I open up to questions now? Okay, I'll take a couple questions if you have them. Steve? Is that 120 health increase, is that monthly or is that? It's the year. That is the year. Big difference. If you know how much healthcare increased this year, you know that didn't come close to touching what the actual increase was. Yes?
So, Matt, I certainly know what I've requested in terms of raises. Will supervisors know what's been approved, or will that just, that'll be the level when the letters go out, and what I would communicate to staff is, this is how much I requested a raise?
I would say that whatever you've requested, I would check in with your division director and see where that is. Or you could check in with Richard. Richard would be able to share with you what was or wasn't approved from your particular project. Am I fair in saying that, John and Richard?
So the takeaway is decisions have been made.
Well, yeah, decisions have been made. We took feedback. Decisions have been made. It's been submitted. I think what was submitted was, what was requested in most cases. Yeah. Yeah, so final approvals have not been made at the university. The budget office could come back and say, sorry, you've got to, but we know it's been approved through the dean. I've approved it, the dean's approved it. So we have one more level before we know for sure. Yeah. So, yeah.
So how does the merit one work as far as, is that just a one lump sum of that they'll receive over the 1 year period?
Yeah, it's added to your salary.
So, but you don't get it like July 1 we'll have
a $500 check.
No. So it doesn't raise us up to a higher income bracket.
No.
It's spread out over the year.
It's spread out over the year. It's added to your base salary. So that's it's not like a bonus where you get a lump sum check. Sort of moves you up the pay scale slowly. But I feel. This isn't going to sound right, but I can't help myself. It's sort of my equitable academic Marxist roots. The percentage thing didn't quite work for me. So I like the idea, if you earn merit, you get merit, whether you're paid at this level or that level. And it seemed to be a little, it feels better, at least to me. So, Jody.
This merit.
just for this year, or does that continue on after?
That continues on.
So
That is
that's-
added to your
that's
base
added to
salary.
your salary.
Uh-huh. It continues on. Yes, so that is added to your base salary and continues on. So it's technically a raise. We could call it a raise. It's a merit raise, yeah. So that's how that works. Okay, I'm going to move on with the building. This building we are meeting in, it is lovely. It is tremendously expensive. If you attended the gala, you know how expensive this building was. Let me share with you. Every unit in the college years ago, before my time, was given a $1 million allocation to pay this building off. Judith handled a lot of the negotiating in terms of what we would have to pay and how we would pay it. Most units were required to pay in one lump sum. Because of our funding structure, we don't just have $1 million of discretionary funding sitting around. We run like a business. What we bring in is technically what goes out the door. We don't have large lumps of money sitting around. We don't have student income. We don't have fees that we can charge for things. And so we were, it was a little bit inequitable to us. So Judith developed a 10-year payment plan for the CPD to meet this target. The first payments were sent to the college in July 2014, so in FY15. It was actually, yeah, the beginning of FY16, technically, is when the first payments went over. And so as of today, the CPD has paid for $494,422 of our total commitment. That puts us about a year ahead of this payment schedule. This is ostensibly a debt that the CPD owes. It is a debt that is taking resources that could be used for other people. And so I am highly motivated to get it paid off as quickly as possible. We just sent over a large chunk a couple of weeks ago, and we'll continue to sort of chip away at this as things come in. A lot of this comes from our overhead, from carryovers on contracts, just little dribs and drabs that we can pull together. Richard does a very good job of helping us identify orphan funds that can be sort of used for this. We have agreed to a plan as the division directors and sort of a division of how we're going to split this up so that we can hopefully pay it off a year early by 2023 if we stay on this schedule. As additional resources come available, I'm going to be putting them over there, so maybe we could pay it off even earlier. Again, it's about $100,000 per year, which is 2 to 4 people, which could really help our projects and other things. That's also travel, professional development funds. A lot of these are discretionary dollars that can be used for whatever we would like to use them for. And so this is a bit of a burden that we operate under. And so if when there's questions about why we can't do this and why we can't do that, I can point to this. This is why we can't do this and that, at least right now, because we're trying to get this paid off. I think that Judith set us on a good course to getting it there, and I think that we are well ahead of schedule. But I think it's important that everybody understand this is sort of a shared responsibility that we all have, that we're making slow progress to. I feel like reporting it to everybody sort of holds me accountable and lets you sort of know how quickly we're moving towards financial stability. We're actually financially just fine. There are no concerns. The problem is that you can't pay this thing off with grant funds, right? You can't pay this off with just the regular contract funds, things that that are our bread and butter. This has to be paid off with sort of discretionary dollars, which are a little bit hard to find in our line of work. So, anybody have questions or concerns about that? I don't know how many of you knew about this. It's out there. It's just good, I think. It's when we look at the financial health of the CPD, this is a pretty heavy weight that we've got right now. So again, just like you want to get your family out of credit card debt or pay off your mortgage or your car payment, it's the same thing here. We want to get this paid off as quickly as possible, although we are not being charged interest, which is nice. So yes.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, we shouldn't feel bad about seeing if there are spaces in this building we can reserve or hold trainings or meetings or things like
No.
that? Okay.
No, you should not.
Well, I do know. We pay the big bucks.
That is one of the reasons we're here. Now you have to understand, every other unit in the college has paid too, and this is a shared space, and so
We are far more important.
I know that, and we're closer, so we're more special. But yeah, so the spaces in this building can be reserved and can be used. So there's lots of meeting rooms, there's lots of technology in here. I would encourage you to use these spaces. The dean wants these spaces to be used. So you shouldn't feel like this was paid for by somebody else. There's a good portion of the CPD that's gone into this building. And there's a good portion of our staff who are here. George, Jamie, Gail, who else is here? Who's here? Marty, Vicky, well, they're not here, but yeah, Janelle. I mean, so there's a good portion of our staff who are here and work here on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, use the building. There you go. Yes?
Who should we reserve through? Should we go through Julie, or should there be, I didn't know.
Do you want?
The online.
Is there? Okay.
So there's an online system. I haven't figured it out. Sharon, I think, has figured it out a bit. Mary, maybe send out an email.
Systems aren't online yet because they're not quite finished with them. I don't know if they will be or if they'll have to go through IT. For which ones? This, the IT rooms, the conference rooms. Yeah, they'll be, these sections of them, but they'll be released. So they will be.
So
I'll send out an email.
Sue will send out an email that will let you know how to reserve. There's an online reservation system. It's a little rough at the moment.
We will probably not have first priority, knowing that, but
Yeah.
I mean, so how would I put that? Non-clinic activities would not have first priority.
Yep.
Would we
So-
get bumped if we had something in advance?
I think if you are scheduled, and the way I understand it, people can get on and see who's scheduled, and if they really want a room, they could call and negotiate.
Okay.
But there's not a direct, once you,
Yeah.
it's kind of the rules that are being developed.
Yeah. The scheduling and the usage here is a moving target at the moment. So, but it doesn't hurt, especially over the summer. There's not going to be a whole lot of use here, and it wouldn't hurt to start, trying it out and seeing what works. And yeah.
Notice that the conference rooms around the building only sit 8 comfortably.
Yeah.
Downside around the table. There's room for other chairs. It's kind of a downside of them. There's a lot of conference rooms in this building, but
They're small.
tables are small.
There. Yep. Okay. So if you have other questions about the building reserving space in here, I would talk to Sue or Janelle, who could help you figure that out. Okay. Let's see, what's next? Upcoming opportunities. So, in spite of, we held even this year, I think there's some upcoming opportunities, some things that are on the horizon that are pretty hopeful for us. We're looking at some new service providers in some of our programs and bringing on more people who will help us bring in more clients and generate some additional non-grant income. We're looking at a combined transition employment Aggies Elevated program that presents a lot of opportunities over the next few months to bring in some additional funding. We're looking at some employment person-centered training and technical assistance with DSPD here in the state. There's several proposals and donation requests that are out, that are pending. There's a lot of stuff that's in the hopper, and the good thing is there's going to be more federal opportunities in the next year. Just last week, just earlier this week on Tuesday, there was a whole boatload that I sent out of new federal opportunities. I'm going to get political just for a minute. Historically, since Ronald Reagan, Republican administrations have ended up growing the budgets much more than Democratic administrations. This is just a fact when you look at the book. This administration is no different. Although the last year it's been hard to get a budget, there has been an omnibus bill that had expanded opportunities through September, and then the budget that's being worked on has even more expanded opportunities. So the forecasts, as we look at them, indicate there's going to be more federal money coming down the pipeline in the next few years. So at least that's what things look like now. We never know, but I think things are looking fairly hopeful. There's money coming out through the CDC, through the Administration on Community Living. NIH has some new competition, so there are going to be opportunities. So I think that that federal amount that's down this year will only go up in future years. So, and then I think another upcoming opportunity is this next year. There's some time to breathe and settle into new structures and processes. There's not. The whole intent is once we're moved and we're just going to settle, right? No more big changes, nothing dramatic's going to happen. Hopefully we can just take some time to kind of figure out how things are going to work. So that's, I think, a great opportunity to look forward to. What time am I at here? And now for something completely different. I had a video, but the sound doesn't work in this room, so I had to take it off. So let's talk about the organizational effectiveness survey that I sent out in February. I sent this out, I put this together and sent it out because I think it's a good way on an annual basis to get the pulse of what's going on here. It ended up being pretty short. When we looked at, there were over 90 people who responded. Considering that we only have a little over 100 full-time staff, I felt that was a pretty good response rate. It took about 5 minutes, really, when you looked at the average time for people to go through it. Now, there were people who skipped some questions, but on average, it gave us some really good feedback on how we're doing as an organization, and it's something that I will send out every year to sort of track take a temperature of how things are going. Now, I'm not going to say it was all roses. There were some dissatisfied people, and there were some hard things to read, and there are problems that I have to work on. But in general, it was a pretty positive picture, I think, of the CPD and what's going on in spite of some of the turmoil and changes in the last few years. So, if we look at the survey results, if we look at the last picture was how satisfied were you with the CPD as a place to work in 2017? Out of a scale of 1 to 7, the overall average was 6.04, which is pretty high, which indicates that most people were pretty happy with the CPD as a place to work. Now, granted, there weren't 90 responses to this. Some people skipped it. There was about 67 responses to this one. But on average, given the total population, we can make some inferences that it was, we were tending towards the satisfaction side of things here as a place to work. When we went through the individual items, I've just pulled out a few, some of the top ones at the top end. I'll go through the bottom end next. But 70 to 75% of employees strongly agreed that they understand their role, which I think was important. I was a little unclear as to how well people understood what their role was and what they do here. So the majority of people felt like they understood their role and what their job was. Most people, 70 to 75%, said they had clear performance indicators, which I felt was really positive. Most people felt like they worked well across projects, division, and people, and they collaborated well, and that the center as a whole was collaborative and was open to working across silos. 70-75% felt like they had a clear job description, which if you've seen USU job descriptions, that was a little shocking to me because they're pretty ambiguous. We're going to work on that one, actually. I was a little surprised by that one. 70-75% felt that they were informed about what's going across their division and the CPD. So they sort of knew what was going on in general. Now there is an exception to this, which I will get to. The majority felt like they were making important contributions, and I think the big one here was that most people strongly agreed that they could speak confidently about who we are and what we do, which I think is important. How we represent ourselves to the community, to the outside world, is really important to cultivating our identity. And if we can't adequately express who we are and what we do to others, it's impossible for us to sort of live up to those expectations. So that was, I felt, very hopeful. And as I read through the comments and stuff that came out about that, a lot of it came through sort of the strategic planning we did last year with our guiding values and mission statement and everything else. People felt a little more clear about what it was that we do at the CPD. Now, again, it's not all whoa. It's not all, whoa, there, where's that? No? Sorry. I wanted to skip the weaknesses, so we're not going to talk about those. There were some red flags. So 25% of employees felt like they are kept informed about how the CPD is doing financially. That's a low number. Hopefully I have changed that a little bit today. Most people didn't know what was going on financially at the CPD. Are we healthy? Are we competitive? Are we keeping up? And so that's why on an annual basis in the spring, I'm planning on having this meeting where I sort of say, this is where we are, this is how we're doing. So I think I've taken a step to addressing that, but that's not surprising given what I discovered coming here a year and a half ago. So 30% of employees agree or strongly agree that the CPD effectively manages underperformance. That's a pretty low number. The majority of people feel that there's not a lot of accountability. And so some of the stuff that we're putting in place with 6-month check-ins and things like that and putting goals on performance evaluations are going to be things that will help us, I think, in the future manage underperformance. It's been hard, I think, when you don't have specific goals that you're working towards on an annual basis, you really don't know how you're doing. And so some of the changes with that performance review process, with these more regular check-ins, hopefully will help manage some of this underperformance. But we're going to have additional discussions about this with the leadership team and project directors. 42% agree or strongly agree that they're fairly compensated for the work they do. So there's a majority who feel they're not fairly compensated, a little over half. And that's something that we are working to address. It was a significant topic of conversation among the division directors at our retreat. There are pretty significant pay disparities here at the CPD, some of it because of history, some of it because of different divisional resources. And one of my goals over the next 5 years is to hopefully address some of these pay disparities. Moving the merit to a standard flat rate is one step to doing this. But there will be additional steps. We cannot make wholesale changes overnight, but we want to make incremental steps to make sure that people feel that they're fairly compensated within their job categories. I know that several division directors over the last year have made significant efforts to make sure that people are paid up to the midpoint in their job category, and some of that stuff is still going on today. So that is something in process and something that we are working on, just so you know. 50% of employees agree or strongly agree that they're able to concentrate on work in their workspace. So this is a cultural shift. Taste. I'm sorry. You may have been able to I am expecting this one to go down next year because TACE is giving up some pretty nice office space and some private working space for a more communal setting. And yes, the space that we work in at the CPD is less than ideal for some of the work that we do. And people, I know the old CPD, people had private offices and were able to have workspace. The building that we're in now does not. It was built in, what, the 80s? The heyday of the cubicle in the 90s. It was built in the 90s. It feels like it was the 80s. No, sorry. It was built in the 90s, right? The first .com boom, the big days with Yahoo and Netscape and iOmega and all these big initial Intel, these big corporations that had big jungle gym playrooms for their workers, and it was a great place to work, and they realized people don't get work done. That's kind of what we're dealing with. That's the space we've got. The business team is looking at some options for restructuring space, potentially looking at new cubicles, things like that. That's a longer term thing that we will continue to investigate. because we have to pay off the building. But again, those resources that are going to the building could very easily be used for reconfiguring workspaces, making things more quiet, bringing in some cubicles that don't look like they're from the 80s, things like that. So it is on my radar. It is working, but it is a cultural shift. And for those of you from TACE who are coming over to the CPD building, there's some people you can talk to. You talk to JC. You could talk to Jeff. You could talk to other people who've worked in Maryland. Talk to some folks, Alma, right? Talk to folks who've moved to a cubicle and how they've made it work. There are tricks, and there are things that you can do to make the cubicle work, but it takes some time to figure out. You could actually talk to the business office too. You could talk to Connie, Joy, and Jody about how they made that particular room work. So, right? Yeah. Yep. They did. They did. There's people who've done it, and there are ways that we can work around it. And I want to support and make workspaces, but it is a shift, and we are in the space that we are in, and so yeah. But please, if there are concerns, issues, we are open, taking feedback and looking at what we can do to make space more usable. And then there are some significant concerns that have been raised. I say here, I'll be working over the summer to address these concerns. There was a lot of narrative things that people wrote. Again, despite the high average, there are significant issues that are out there. If you wrote them, I have read them, I'm aware of them, I'm working with the people who can help address them. So and that will be ongoing. I'm trying to be proactive on some of these things. Some of them take a little bit of time. But I think the dean said this at the opening of the Sorensen Center. The most important thing and the biggest asset of the college is the people. And I think it's the same thing here for the CPD. If we can't address people and we can't make people happy, then we're not going to be able to do the work that we need to do. And so we are trying our best, and it is a huge priority. So with that, yep, we're going to skip this. No. We have a little bit of time, and I'm actually getting pretty close to the end. It's 3:30. Wow, that's great. I'm not going to bore you for 2 hours. Are there questions that I could answer? And it doesn't have to be about what I presented today. Does anybody have any questions that I could help you with? And if I can't help you, we do have medical professionals in the room. We have counselors. We have others. So, yes, Ricky.
Where did you get that fabulous jacket?
I will never tell.
You said you would help answer.
Should I tell the truth?
Yes.
My wife found it for me. She went to, Her Burgers or whatever closed down in the mall, and she was going to buy some of their display. Anyway, my wife's a remarkable woman, and but she's digging through things and buying display things, and she was making this beehive. She's keeping bees this year, and while she was doing that, she found this jacket somehow. I don't know.
Great.
Did that jacket come like with something that it's displayed on, like maybe a mannequin or something?
No, it didn't, but I tried to get her to buy a mannequin or two, but that was just too creepy. It was like, mannequin in the front yard. That's what I said about the toilet I removed from downstairs. I was like, there's a perfect planter out front. Anyway.
The came with matching pants. Probably don't wear them together.
Yeah, I don't think I could do that, but yeah. No, my wife said about the toilet I removed from downstairs. She said, we don't live in Idaho anymore. Oh, wait, wait, what, did I say that? I'm sorry. I am sorry. No. Okay. Are there other questions? George.
Being housed over here in this building, I wonder about the identity of clinical services and the CPD. So So what's the long-term plan for services through the CPD? Are they gonna become part of another entity? Are they gonna, like what's the big picture with?
This is a moving target. My intent is to keep them part of the CPD. But there are aspects of it, administrative aspects like billing and other things that are being centralized. So there is some evolution that's occurring there. My understanding of the dean's vision for this building is that services will remain housed with their home units. That's not to say, though, in 5 to 10 years that this couldn't become a separate entity, and I don't know. I mean, I certainly see how it could evolve into a separate entity, but I feel that the clinical services add tremendous value to what we do and a practical element to some of the more conceptual, theoretical training things that we do, and it's important to keep as part of who we are. Now, maintaining that connection, however, when we're not sharing space, is turning out to be tricky at best. And I don't want to add more meetings or things to our agendas. So I've actually, at our last division directors meeting, and it'll come up at project coordinators meeting too, I've asked for ideas for workplace enhancement, building a culture. How do we pull the clinical services and the people who are housed over here together and maintain sort of that cohesiveness? Because I do feel that there is an opportunity for there to be drift, honestly. But as of right now, the intent is we're looking at new providers, new services, things like that, that they will be CPD employees, that they will contribute and be part of the CPD, and be part of this group here. Do you want to add anything to that, Sue?
You know, I think there is a delicate balance of becoming more integrated with the clinics that are here.
Yeah.
And maintaining identity, because we want to work together, we want to emerge interdisciplinary with other clinics. So there's a balance there, and I'm not sure what it is. And now that others have moved in, so the rest of them are just moving in this week, and they'll start actively having clientele next week. And yeah.
Yeah.
It will be something that I think will evolve.
Yeah.
And I think it's up to the people who are here housed in this building to remain connected with the CPD and know that it's our home plate, and for people to come over here and feel part of this culture.
Yep.
And this is to some extent an extension.
Yeah. And I would really encourage people to view this building, the programs here, as an extension of what we do. Come eat lunch over here. Come sit over here. When you're in some of my research, sorry, I'm going to get nerdy here just for a second. Some of my research is on space and how space creates and structures social interactions. If you are not sharing space and crossing paths with people on a regular basis, you lose a lot of opportunities and you don't feel like you're part of something. So part of it has to be an intentional putting yourself in that space and allowing those opportunities to happen. So that's a responsibility on our part to be over here. And then it's a responsibility to come visit us too. We're not far, but I mean, yeah, the long-term vision though is going to be evolutionary. And I mean, I think what you bring up is going to be the same for TACE, right? TACE has been a separate space. TACE has had a separate identity for a long time. And there's going to be an evolutionary process of figuring out what it means to be sharing a space with a broader group of collaborators and colleagues. And that's going to change identity and structures, and I think that's why I'm asking over the next year that in terms of moving and new big changes that we're trying to let's just mellow out and just let things evolve for a bit to figure out how it's going to shake out. So Norm, you had a...
Well, and so along that same line is, there's precedents where TACE for however long has been physically separate from the CPD, yet as, being part of the CPD. And, happily so, but you're right, it's taken effort and collaboration, so it has behooved, Taste, so to speak, to come and be part of the meeting and the conversation.
Yeah.
And Steve made the comment that Innovation Campus is a lot further away than, the 2 buildings now. Just not oversimplifying it, but yeah, it's a conscious effort, and I agree with, the discussion, but that it takes both, to make effort to foster those connections.
It does.
But I see value in keeping the CPD as a unit in terms of its function and its relationship and how the divisions can relate and benefit from each other.
So, and there are some confusing energies here, and I kind of brought this up at our meeting a couple of weeks ago, Sue, but it's this idea of trying to maintain our CPD identity, but then there's this idea that we're going to go towards a more collaborative, interdisciplinary approach to the care that we give, and those are confusing and sometimes I think even competing values, and yet all really important. And so I guess more than asking you to come up with a great answer, because to tell you the truth, I knew there wasn't a great answer. I don't have asked the question. I would like us to keep diligent about maintaining those goals and I think that's part of the challenge. I mean, I can see Taste coming over here and with their own power, and I mean, I've been hearing about Taste for almost 10 years, and I don't know any of you guys. I mean, I know some of you, but obviously there's some incredible skills that you guys are bringing to the table, and yet I don't really know them, and so it would be helpful for me to understand how Taste operates and the kind of services, and to see how I can contribute to that. But I don't know if that's going to conflict with my role in this center.
Yeah.
And so I think we have to.
We have to work on it.
I just want to make sure that we're continuing a proactive effort at defining what those rules are going to be, and especially defining how to integrate.
Yep. No, I agree 100%. And it is going to take a conscious effort over the next year. It's one of the reasons I wanted to have the meeting here. Is let's get out of our space. I mean, and you're going to notice, and part of it is me and some of my priorities. But you're going to notice more shared positions, more interdisciplinary things. Tim Reeson is a good example of this. He's going to be 50% in the department and 50% with us, and trying to actually structurally build in some of these interdisciplinary collaborations. I think Tyra, and bringing Tyra on as part of the clinic, is another example. She technically doesn't belong to our department, but we're going to support her and use her services in applied behavior analysis. And so there's going to be a growth and evolution process where the boundaries are not going to be as clearly defined as they have been in the past. And so it's going to be a little uncomfortable, but I do agree that it's going to take some effort over the next few years to understand that identity, because the identity of what the CPD was 5 years ago is not what it's going to be in the next 5 years. So, yeah.
One thing that I'd have to say is, and at the gala the other night, I was visiting with different people, there is a greater awareness of the CPD and what we are and what we do than there ever has been, I believe, in the past, because we have taken on a single identity. We used to have multiple identities, and that's not to credit or discredit, but we had all of these kind of projects with their own name that didn't umbrella under CPD, and people were pretty confused about who we are. And Matt, I think you have brought that identity together, and that I think people are much more aware of who we are and what we do than ever before. And that's been actively part of this whole project. So, you know, I had talked with department heads who I would guarantee 2 years ago had not a clue what I did or what my division did or what our clinics did, and now they do, and they can describe those things. So I think that's pretty exciting.
It is exciting.
So it's really, it still is almost, has our identity evolved as we merge. So it's kind of something like what you're talking about has happened. We've evolved in our identity, but we've merged in our effort with other departments.
Yeah. And so one thing, you don't see this. There's a few people in this room who have seen it. As there is creep and as there is an attempt to co-opt our programs and things like that, I fight pretty clearly for people who are ours and for programs that are ours. And I set pretty clear boundaries. I don't care what you want to do. This is our program, and this is, so although you don't see it, and I'm trying to promote this interdisciplinary collaboration, I am trying to do that at the same time as I'm maintaining some pretty clear boundaries about this is central to the CPD's identity and functioning and effectiveness. So yeah, not everybody wants to see that side of me, but but it's there, and I think and I will continue to do that. We need to be collaborative. We need to make efforts to working across boundaries, but we also need to recognize that the CPD is a unique entity, the likes of which exists in very few places in the United States. There's a few other centers that have our diversity and capacity, but they are literally, I can count them on one hand. And maintaining that and maintaining our visibility and our impact is, anyway, keeps me up at night. But that's so, and part of it's in my mind too. How do we evolve and maintain that identity, but also share? And so it'll be an ongoing process. But I appreciate your concerns, and I will continue to encourage everybody to make efforts to bridge the sidewalk between us. If you haven't eaten lunch in the Beverly Garden, by the way, you should come over and eat lunch in the Beverly Garden. It's remarkable. Anyway, John, you had a...
And the other issue that is, you say just across the sidewalk, but you know, there's staff all over the United States. We have
there is
through Pennsylvania, you know, across the country.
Yep.
As far as virtual staff members, a lot are probably on the virtual connection now. So we need to, it's always been a challenge for us how we bring that group into an identity where we're collaborating and working together.
Yep.
And I'm just sitting here thinking of the staff we have that might be there. And okay, how are those people ultimately going to connect with this group?
Yeah.
And these built structural buildings.
Yep.
The other thing is when you look at really good organizations now, like we have 5 divisions, but we really have 3 divisions that are doing all the work. It would be wonderful someday if we could melt those divisions, and when we get to know each other well enough, when we have a new project, I can reach out to people in the service division or the research, and we can have, you know, parts of FTE across all divisions. And then that breaks down silos too. And we become one rather than 3 divisions or 90 projects.
And I think that exists. I would say that technical assistance is the one division where that doesn't exist now, but there are people in this room who are shared across 3 divisions. And where that happens, I mean, and part of it's been, I think, structural space, just being, but the virtual thing, keeping virtual staff connected is something that came up over and over on that survey, and it's something that I'm working on trying to address. How do we make more meaningful inclusion in our meetings? I'm very hopeful with this room and with some of the technology in this building that will be easier to connect them with video and in more meaningful ways with what we do and on a more regular basis. So it's but yeah, I agree, it's a huge piece. It's a huge piece. Okay, interest of time. Was there a question online, Alma? Okay. How many people are tuned in? Good, good, perfect. We're it's not a YouTube live. We're not really, you know, we don't have millions, but we're getting there slowly but surely, right? Not that exciting yet. Let's see. Here you go. Boom. Kelly left too. Dang it. You knew I couldn't get through a meeting without reminding you about NEARS. It is our first year of our new core grant. We have completely restructured goals and everything else. It's going to be real fun writing this report. I need as much data and all your, I don't need as much data as I can get. I need all your data. I'm just going to put it there. I need everything. Kelly sent out a reminder today about committees. If you've been on doctoral or master students committees, you'll see regular reminders going out over the next 2 months from Kelly. Please respond. Please do your NEARS. This year sets the benchmark for all of our future years, and I want to, I would really like to make it look like we've accomplished the goals that we set out for us this year. We did submit a continuation application in March, and we were looking very good at that point, but we haven't finished the year yet. So there you go. Upcoming events. So you know, our Community Advisory Committee will be meeting here on the 2nd through the 4th of May 2 to 4 p.m. on May 31st. Thank you. Okay. My brain was not working. Everybody is invited to attend that. I don't know which room that's going to be in yet, but if you're interested in, our Community Advisory Committee has been restructured, and we're in the process of sort of rebuilding and making that entity a more engaged part of what we do. We have a new chair. Sarah Dutre is the chair of our Community Advisory Council now, and Eric Stoker is the co-chair. And we will be recruiting over the next year. So if you're interested in what they do and the role they play in the governance of the CPD, please feel free to attend. So our summer picnic and swim party, last year we reserved the pool at the end of the year. This year we got it at the very beginning. Hopefully it will be warm enough, June 15th. We will have our swim party and picnic at the Logan City Pool. Please bring your families, friends. Yeah, and my daughter will be a lifeguard there, so she'll keep all your kids safe and everything. But yeah, last summer we had a good time. I mean, we closed the place down. I mean, there were people there till like 10:30 at night going down the water slides, and the lifeguards were shivering in the water. But I think George Jekyll really just kept them on their toes. I mean, Tyler was there late too with his kids. But anyway, so there's that. The Run, Walk, and Roll race is on the 23rd. I highly encourage you. This is a fundraiser for our Up to 3 program. They have grown every year. It is a really fun event. I went last year with my family. I highly encourage you to participate with your families. Again, you don't have to run. You can walk. It's not competitive. You can just sit around and eat cotton candy. Yeah. I believe, Brenna, that was like your second week of work last year, and you were making cotton candy and snow cones. So it's a good thing to do. And then our September 11th will be our next all-staff meeting, 2 to 4. There'll be some fun things there. We're going to launch a diversity initiative. You'll see a lot of stuff come out about that over the next month or so. I'm going to talk about a CPD Innovation and Ideas Pechakucha. Do you know what a Pechakucha is? Oh, something to look forward to. I'm not going to tell you. Okay, parting thought. Long-term consistency trumps short-term intensity. One of my favorite people, Bruce Lee. This is an important lesson for what we do. A lot of times, we run differently than academic departments. I know I say that. And a lot of times it feels like we're coming in and doing short-term intense things, but it's the long-term showing up every day, working and getting things done that makes a difference in the long run. The students who succeed in college, what's the #1 factor for success in college? Showing up to class. It doesn't matter how smart you are, it doesn't matter how good you do on your assignment, just show up to the dang class and you're going to do well and succeed. Consistency makes a difference. And it makes small incremental differences over time. We've done a lot of big changes. It's time to step back. We've done a lot of short-term intensity stuff here, but in the long run, it's going to be consistency. So we're going to sit here for the next year. We're going to breathe. We're going to settle in. We're going to get through these moves, and we're going to just work, right? We're going to see what we can do over the next year. I'm excited to work with each of you. Thank you so much. Food and drinks are over at the CPD. And I'm happy to answer any other questions in a more informal setting. So, thank you.